Kovatch, the Associate Program Director for the Blue Ridge Music Center. I'd like to welcome you to the discussion series of Place in the Band, Women in Bluegrass and American Roots Music. This series is part of a project by the Blue Ridge Music Center that began in 2020 to honor the 100th anniversary of women being granted the right to vote. A Place in the Band celebrates the triumphs and explores the struggles faced by women in bluegrass and American roots music. In this discussion series, North Carolina singer-songwriter and social activist Laurelyn Dossett speaks with women in the music business, including musicians and others involved in music management and promotion roles. Through these conversations, the women share their stories, talking about their role models, mentors, and inspirations, experiences with people they've worked with, issues they've encountered that are specific to women in the industry, changes they've seen over the years, and other parts of their own personal journeys that have helped them to be who they are today. These individual stories show us the collective strength and future possibilities for women in bluegrass and American roots music. I hope you enjoy the series, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, my name is Laurelyn Dossett. During these series of conversations, we've been careful to include women in the music industry who are not only on stage but behind the scenes. Surely there's no behind-the-scenes job more important than that of sound engineer, which is why I'm so excited to introduce you to Haley MILLER COOTS. She works with SE Systems and has been with festivals large and small, including Merlefest, and has been on the road for years with major bluegrass and American roots music artists. There's probably not a part of the industry that remains such a man's world as sound engineering, and Haley has a lot to say about that. She also has high hopes for women in our industry. Here's Haley MILLER COOTS. So Haley, tell me how, you work in sound and you work for SE Systems in North Carolina, but all over the place. So tell me the progression. How did this all get started?
I did not intend to go into audio. I was in college. I double majored in psychology and criminal justice, and I minored in history. And I was on summer break, and my dad was out on it was the Down from the Mountain tour, and with Ola Bell and Riley Bogus, and it was a T-Bone Burnett production that was put on. And one of the guys on the crew fractured his ankle. And he wasn't able to help setting up the speakers. And Dad called me and was like, "Do you want to come out and do this?" And I was like, "Yes." Yes, I do. And I did not. It's been 17 years and I haven't gone back from it. I've just it was everything that, could have ever dreamed of doing. I mean, it's just such a unique business.
Exactly. Sure. Well, tell me about your dad, for those who don't know who your dad is.
So my dad is Cliff Miller, and he owns SE Systems, but he used to play with Doc Watson and Merle Watson back in the 70s. And he ran around with them and played pretty much everywhere. And he decided one day that people acoustically could not really reproduce what they were trying to do on stage. And he thought that there was it needed a company that went and would support an acoustic show, could specialize in an acoustic show. So he started SE Systems because of that.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and Merlefest, was huge. I mean, it started on a flatbed, trailer, and it has just become massively huge now. And now the IBMAs and all these things that we do now. But he's the one who's kind of spearheaded this, for me anyway, the acoustical movement of audio.
Yeah. Well, it's two things. One is I didn't know that the Down from the Mountain tour is where you started. I saw that tour at a couple of stops. Oh yeah. I've played with Riley Bogus quite a bit. So Riley,
I love him so much. He's the sweetest person on the planet.
He's wonderful, and he's an amazing banjo player. And so I know I saw it in Richmond and one other place. I can't remember what the other one was, but that was an amazing tour. So what a way to get started. Of course you couldn't turn back.
No, because I think I was 21 at the time. I was 21, and I mean, Olabelle and Riley and Tim Erickson, and I mean, all these amazing, and there were a lot of young people on that tour, and we just became friends, and everybody worked hard to achieve what we achieved. But at the end of the day, and after everything was done, then everybody would hang out and have fun. I was like, wow, this is definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life. But
I love it.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of also funny to think about that progression. I didn't know about I've known your dad from Merlefest for all these years, but I didn't know that he had played with Doc, so that he ended up being, it sounds like he was interested in achieving really good acoustic sound before Merlefest started. That was, and then for it to have already happened and for him to slide into that.
Yeah.
Wow. What a progression.
For touring with Doc for so long, he realized there was a void in just being able to do that. But I was actually out on tour with Alison Krauss, and we did a Austin City Limits show, and they brought some walk-in music out for us to play for walk-in, and he opened up the CD, and he was in there with Doc. Nobody even realized it, but that was him in the picture, and he was like, "Come here, look at this," and I was like, "That is the neatest thing." I mean,
wow,
you'll see that, but yeah.
So you say that your dad just called you to come help, and that was it. Had you already, worked with him some and had a sense of how to do things, sort of an apprenticeship situation, or how did that work?
Not at all. I actually, I kind of picked it up as I went, and but I was in military school for 4 years in high school, and I learned how to run crews because I was a company commander and different things in military school, and it just came naturally to me to run a crew. And that's just everything. I developed all my audio knowledge based off of that. I kind of started backwards. I think people tell me I started backwards because I learned how to fly speakers in the air and set up equipment before I learned to actually be an engineer. So.
And would you say you did mostly just learn on the job? You learned in an apprentice kind of way, rather than you didn't go to school for this at all?
So I did do the GTCC class. I took an acoustics class at GTCC, which wasn't a great acoustics class. I mean, just understanding, the physical science of acoustics was really important. I did not finish, but my classes there. I was so involved with being on the road all the time. I couldn't be physically out of class. So I'm a more hands-on learner anyway. And to be thrown into the fire, that's what I call it, is to learn. You learn pretty quick to be just having the heat on you like that.
Right. So when you go out now, you're not always going out like with your dad. I mean, you go out and do it, do it on your own.
I haven't done a show with my dad in probably 12 years or something. I don't know. He did the touring, and when I was touring, I was with my dad touring, but every show that I've done outside of the touring has been by myself and with my crew, with our SE Systems crew, which is just the best crew that I could ever ask for. I mean, we have successful shows, but our shows come from, just the hard work of the crew that's there. He's really put together a really great team, and I'm lucky to have that.
Right. I know some women sound engineers over the years that I've encountered, but it's still fairly unusual.
Yes, definitely. I've heard that a lot. When I started back in, I don't even know what year it was, but 17 or 18 years ago, I would hear all the time, "You're the first audio girl that I've ever seen." Girls tend to go into lighting. and and do lighting. And so I know a handful of girls now that are really good engineers, and but I mean, I've been across the country, and I still only know a handful of girls that are, you know, in the field. So,
right. Do you experience any barriers from being a woman? I mean, what do you think keeps young women from choosing it? Because it's so fun.
Women typically go into, if they go into audio, they go into studio audio. It's hard being, it's not just about doing and mixing a show, or it's from the very beginning when you do that load in, you're dumping trucks and you're setting up the rig, and then, it's a very involved, and sometimes it can be a 23-hour day. It's not for everybody. I mean, it is fun, but it is very, very, very hard work. And it will run you into the ground sometimes, just having to do things back to back to back to back. But it's definitely acquired taste for some people.
Sure.
So,
do you have stories about, showing up at a gig and they're like, who are you, little lady? Or
Yes, I actually got kicked out of brought in a stage for Dave Matthews Band, and they kicked me out because they thought I was a crew member's girlfriend.
No.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Everybody, when people heard that, I mean, they were so angry. and I was like, okay, I was so new at the time. I was maybe 2 years in to doing this. And I didn't know enough at that point to stand up for myself. And I do now. I mean, it's just, it's not that I stand up for myself, but I'm so, I don't know, hardened or used to the barriers that everybody runs to at this point in time. And I don't let it get to me. I just, I just tell them very nicely, I'm sorry, but, this is our gear and I'm staying with our gear. So, but other than that, I mean, there are barriers sometimes, but ultimately, I find that if you go in with just a professional, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a really long time. People sense that,
right?
And they tend to, not question anything. Everybody just rolls with it, and we go on with the show. So.
Well, it sounds like some of that, maybe some of that training you had also, that you can. I mean, obviously, you're a lovely, nice person, but you also can walk into a room and take charge.
Yeah.
And that might, that's not. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but of my generation, I'm quite a bit older than you. To be taught how to be in charge, particularly of a group of men, was not something I was taught to do. So it does take a little, even for us, it takes a little getting over that.
Sure.
Initial. Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure. Yeah. I think military background had a lot to do with that, because you were judged on the base of your rank, not the base of your gender. And so I think that broke those barriers for me, for looking at it like that. And and I don't look at it like that.
Well, talk to me a little bit about what it's been like. You started, you were 21, you were single, you were a young woman out on the road for years. And there was a point when you married and had a family, and life looked different. So what is that looking like for you?
It's probably been my largest obstacle, because as a technician in the business, you almost are married to the business, because it is a full day. It is, our average day is 19 hours. when summertime kicks off and concert series kick off, you can work 4 or 5 days in the week if it's really busy, and that's a total commitment to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so having to balance a family, which is obviously the most important thing to me in my life now, after getting married to my husband and having my 2 girls, that's changed things for me. I do not go out and do as many shows. I'm very particular about the ones that I do. And I do Merlefest and IBMAs and several shows. I love to do symphony shows. They're one of my favorite things to do in the world.
Which symphonies do you work with?
Winston-Salem Symphony a lot, and we used to work a lot with North Carolina Symphony. They do a lot of things in-house now, and it's just, I just love the symphony world. I truly, it just is a soft place in my heart.
Well, and that's not easy. I've worked with both of those symphonies myself, and that's not easy work.
No.
That's a lot. Those are, it's very carefully placed
Yes.
microphones, and it's all, and there's so many people in the band.
There are so many people, and that's why I absolutely adore it. I love it. It's so hard to make it seem like you're not doing anything.
Right.
It is to accomplish that and pull that off. It makes you so happy in the middle of a show. I've never, between Bluegrass and Symphony.
Yeah.
I think,
and when you can put them together, all the better, right?
No, true. We've had some of my favorite shows. Travis Creed with Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
He's doing a really great job with pairing those, the two together. I mean, why would it not work?
I've seen a lot of those shows as well. It's just beautiful. The one it was a smaller one with Hank and Patty and the Current, and a small ensemble that was really great.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen several of those that have been very exciting.
Yeah,
it's groundbreaking in terms of building audience and things like that. Yeah, that's
sure. And I feel like you have to these days. I mean, it's just, you say symphony and people go, oh, that's still out there. I mean, people still go to the symphony, and which is sad, because I feel like it's losing its fan base.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. We could do another whole podcast series on that, but we'll let that one drop for now. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about how you're doing things differently now that you've got a family and kids. You've got 2 girls, and so you're not going out for quite as long or quite as often. And how is that? I mean, but you still have to go out. It's not like, an 8-hour daycare situation. Like these are long days and things. What are some of the ways you manage that?
My husband helps me a lot with that. And, he is really busy himself, but if he can help me manage the girls, or even my dad and my stepmom, Catherine, they'll be a big help too, and they'll watch the girls for me. But it's an overnighter situation. It's, and I'm so exhausted by the time I do come back home at maybe 4 o'clock in the morning that, I want to sleep. But that's why I do a lot less. It's just harder to recuperate. Like, after the older I get, the harder it is to recoup after those days. But
those kids, they wake up and they want breakfast.
They at 6. And
they're relentless.
They want to see mommy.
Yeah.
And I want to see them, and I end up sleeping for 3 or 4 hours, and I get up anyway just to spend time with them. And, the more and more of being home, the harder it is to look at being away and being away from them.
What do they think about mommy's work?
I don't know if they think anything at all of it, really, because they love music and they're very free. They'll just dance at the drop of a hat. If there's tunes playing in the grocery store, they don't care. They'll just dance their little hearts out. But I take them with me to Merlefest, and I have ever since they were born. And they sometimes they'll come to the IBMAs, but or Houston Fest. There's another little bluegrass festival up in Galax, and they'll come up there and they'll hang out. And a lot of the musicians know them now, or they'll say, you know, "Hey, Bayla." My daughter, name my daughter Bayla.
I love it.
Not after Fleck. That's what I was talking to. I told Jerry Douglas I toured with that band for so long, and when I had my kid, he was like, "What'd you name her?" I was like, "Bayla." He was like Fleck? I was like, "No, not like Fleck." There's a novel I loved, and Bayla's name was in there.
Yeah.
But I take them with me, and they know people, and they go out and they dance and they have fun, and
and they see you work.
Yes. Yeah. And which is good. They know to leave mommy alone when my fingers on the console, but they like to watch. They really like to watch the bands more than they like to watch me, which is fine. I get it.
Well, of course, but again, that's an experience that they're getting a novel experience.
Yeah.
To learn from you, to learn from watching you. And I'm imagining that, just like a lot of things with, women breaking through in different fields, that it's those sorts of things. It won't be weird for your girls to have had a mom who did this really cool thing, and they may not decide to do what you do, but they may decide to do something else. Yeah. But they won't ever feel like they can't because they're a girl.
There's a barrier there.
Yeah.
I hope that they feel, that they could do anything that they want to. And that's my job as a mom, to, let them imagine whatever they want to do, and it doesn't matter. And, because I feel like there are still a lot of, walls. There's still a lot of walls out there. And, but they're, I think the girls are growing up to be very free and very, I don't know, encouraged to
That's
do
great.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
you still are working for your dad at SE Systems. Your dad owns that company.
So I'm more of like a part-time now instead of full-time, because I am choosing, I'm being more choosy with my gigs because I want to spend more time with my kids, and I want to take them to school, and I want to do those things. So I took a huge step back because trying to commit to both things, you have to put your whole body and your whole heart into one or the other. And, I chose my kids. I mean, I love doing audio. I love this business, and I love this work. But it's not logistically possible to have both and to be the best at both.
Right.
So I chose to sit back and be more with my kids, and my dad has been the largest supporter with that. 100%, and he was gone a lot when we were kids because he was building a business, and I think that he understands that probably more than anybody else.
Right.
And which has been a great support for me because I do not feel the guilt that comes with, turning down shows or not doing shows, and being able to spend more time with my children.
Wow, that's awesome. Where do you see things going as your kids get older, or what are your dreams of how you develop, continue to develop professionally?
There's always a crossroads. Every day is different. You run it. I mean, especially this year with COVID. I mean, you just don't know where everything's going to go. You almost kind of have to reinvent yourself every day to keep up with everything. And that's what we're trying to do right now. And my my brother works also with me at the company. He's a great welder. So I don't foresee us walking away entirely. This is like something that I love. I hold dear, to my heart. But I do see myself being more domesticated, doing things at home with my kids, and only going out on the shows that I really want to go out on if they'll still have me.
So I know you learned this business from your dad, and you talked about your military school training. Do you have any other male or female mentors, people that you looked up to or that you've learned from?
Absolutely. I
Tell
mean,
me.
the industry is riddled with just some of the best engineers, and I think just anybody who comes into this business and starts working is going to take note of the best. And I have met, I mean, especially in Bluegrass, I have met some of the best engineers, and I watch what they do, and it's hard to explain. Engineers are really they don't give away a lot of their secrets. You kind of have to pay attention to what they're doing. But Bernie Galudi, who was Alison's front house guy for a really long time, he works with Emmylou a lot. He is the quirkiest guy, but he is one of my favorite people, but an amazing engineer. I mean, he just really, he has given me a lot of pointers on things. My dad is pretty much, he stepped back and let me learn on my own, but every now and then he'll sneak in there and he'll go, hey, why don't you flip the phase on this, and or some little tidbit that I've never thought of, which changed the world about keeping everything stable on stage. Art, just being a front of house monitor person, or just in the industry at all, with all these traveling bands, you get to know people for, you all become really good friends, especially when you do festivals and stuff together. So, there's a lot of really great front of house people out there, or monitor engineers. And I try to pick up on those things, but it is a secret. People don't go and, share the wealth with everybody pretty much. They teach the basics, but they keep a lot of that stuff to themselves.
Interesting. Do you do the same?
I think for a large part of it, I do, but I do try to pass a lot along to, especially the younger people coming into the shop. They'll have a rig set up in the warehouse for a couple days, and they'll be trying to ring out monitors, and I'll watch them and then let them make mistakes, let them figure out a lot of things. And then I'll come in and say, hey, if you do this, with the microphone, it's going to help a lot because of pickup pattern. Right. And, especially with acoustic music, all of those things matter.
Right.
You have to control your environment. And it's all about controlling your environment and working along with physics.
Right.
You can't change physics. You just work with it.
You mentioned also that there are a handful of other women that you see out there. Are you seeing a few more young women coming along?
Younger ones, really, no. All the other women that I know are either my age, and maybe a little bit older. Okay. Actually, I haven't. No younger girls. I mean, we've had people come in and do little stints in the shop, and when they load their first couple trucks, and they're gone.
Okay.
It's not easy. I mean, you're doing it all in this business. There are white glove engineers. We call them white glove engineers. That'll, after everything's set up, they'll come in and do their thing. But Like, we are not those.
Right, right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting to, I always kind of keep an eye out for it just because I'm curious about it. But that'll be interesting for us to watch that over the coming years and see, particularly now that shows have shut down and now they're going to open back up again in some ways. It'll be interesting to see who's still around and who comes back. Right. But also who enters it in the first place, I mean, I would guess in terms of, just work and training that it would feel like a scary career to be in right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is.
Yeah. It really
It's been forgotten pretty much, I think, for the most part. But
I understand. I mean, I think musicians get it,
Yeah.
and other crew people, I've worked a lot with theater and stuff, just all the lighting and sound and set design and, painters and all those people are not working.
Bus drivers, catering people, management people. I mean, there's a lot involved in putting on a show.
Right.
I mean, a lot. And I worry about my friends. I worry about the stage crews we work with a lot, that we just have a very close relationship with, that the locals that we work with.
Sure.
And I do worry about them because I wonder where they are and how they're doing, and if they were able to keep afloat through all of it. But
it's been a hard year. I know. Well, if you had advice, not just for young women, but or you can do it specific to young women if you want to, but if you had advice for anyone wanting to enter this field, what would it be?
I would say, I think the most important part of being successful in any industry is to go in there with a professional head, learn your trade, and hold your head high and go in there and do it, because it doesn't matter if you're a girl, it doesn't matter if you're a boy. If you know your trade and you're near the top, people are going to respect you.
Mm-hmm.
You're it's going to be easier to get through the day. It's going to be a hard road to get there, a lot of a lot of mistakes, but ultimately there are no, if you think that there are going to be barriers and walls, there will be. If you do not see them, they are not there. And I don't see those. I don't look at the people on the crew as girls or boys. I look at them as what they're doing on the job that day, and how are they holding are they doing a good job? Are they doing a bad job? That's it. There are no barriers, and if you think that there are, then you've stopped yourself. Right.
I hear you. Amen. Well, this has been great to talk to you about all this today, and illuminating for me. There's a lot I didn't know. Is there anything else when you knew we were going to be having this conversation today? Is there anything that you thought to yourself, I really want to talk about this, or I really, wanted to say?
No, I think the last thing that I just said was probably one of the most thought about things that I have this really come to mind, because I've been asked multiple times, being a girl in this industry, how do you do it? How do you do this? I got asked that when I was touring, and I remember I told this girl, I was like, well, I don't ask for special treatment, so they don't give it to me. Mm-hmm. And they treat me like they would everybody else. And I think that is really important, to just be able to just plow through and just not see those boundaries. I think that's imperative in success, at any success at all. So
it's about the work.
It is about the work. It's about should be proud of your knowledge and what you've achieved, and don't let anybody else ever put you down. You just, to be confident is the biggest, it's your biggest tool to have confidence. It changes everything.
I understand. That's great. Well, thanks for that clarification and insight. That's wonderful. Well, this has been really fun. I look forward to being on some stage somewhere together before too long. That would be fantastic.
I know.
So,
me too.
Maybe next year.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. Looking forward to it again, and just I don't even know how I would feel like doing a show again. It would be. I think I'd be so excited all day. It would just go by like that.
Probably so. Me too. Very good. Well, you have a good holiday, and thanks for sharing your time with us. And I'll let you know when these are done. They're coming out, in stages in January.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So very good. Great. Thanks so
Thanks
much
for having me. I appreciate it.
Very good. Happy holidays.
You too.
Bye.